All right, welcome back. Today, we're basically going to be detectives. We're going to use an ancient legal text to solve what is honestly a surprisingly modern mystery. Where exactly do you draw the line between what's sacred and what's just everyday?
And look, this isn't just some philosophical thought experiment. For the ancient sages of the Talmud, this was a super practical problem, one with really profound consequences. And their search for an answer? Well, that's our story today.
So our detective story kicks off with a question of sacred space. Let's call it the crime scene, is the courtyard of the ancient temple in Jerusalem. The holiest site in Judaism.
To solve the mystery of this space, the sages have to start drawing some lines. And their investigation begins with one single, absolutely crucial piece of evidence. A very, very precise measurement.
A text says the courtyard's dimensions are exactly 187 by 135 cubits. Now, this defines the zone of maximum sanctity. But this isn't just an architectural detail, right? It's a clue. So the real question becomes, why these specific numbers? What are they trying to tell us?
The sages have this moment where they realize, wait a minute, these dimensions must be intentionally leaving something out. And their prime suspects? The chambers that were built along the courtyard's perimeter. It's like the numbers are carefully drawing a line that puts these rooms just on the outside.
But as they start investigating these chambers, they run into a huge contradiction. It seems like two key clues about the status of these rooms just flat out don't add up.
So on one hand, you have a source that seems totally clear. If chambers are built in a non-sacred area, but they open into a sacred one, their interior becomes sacred. Okay, so this seems to suggest they should be part of the holy space. Simple enough, right?
Well, here's the problem. Another source says the Torah itself amplified many courtyards for the specific reason that priests could eat the holiest of holy offerings in these very chambers. I mean, that makes them sound extremely sacred, not less so.
So now we have a direct conflict. The dimensions seem to exclude the chambers, but the rules for sacred activities, like eating holy offerings, seem to include them. So how on earth can both of these things be true at the same time?
This is where our lead detective, a sage named Rava, steps into the picture. And he comes up with this brilliant, nuanced solution, a real aha moment that just might resolve the whole contradiction. So Rava looks at this whole puzzle and he asks a fantastic question. What if sanctity isn't an all-or-nothing kind of thing? What if there's a third option beyond just sacred or not sacred?
And this leads Rava to his really elegant solution, situational sanctity. He argues that the Torah made a very special, very targeted exception. It expanded the definition of courtyard only for the purpose of eating sacred offerings. But for everything else, like slaughtering or for the laws of impurity, the original, stricter dimensions are the ones that count.
Okay, so just when it seems like the case is closed, the sages have to solve one final puzzle. A new piece of evidence pops up, and it's got a last-act twist that threatens to unravel Rava's entire theory.
A text is found that says you are liable for entering the chambers while you're ritually impure. Now, this implies they are fully sacred by Torah law for more than just eating, which, that directly contradicts Rava's whole nuanced solution.
But the sages, they don't just give up. They scrutinize the text itself, and they find a fatal flaw in its own logic. Check this out. The very first rule in this same text forbids slaughtering in the chambers, and the reason it gives, they lack full sanctity. So the sages make a logical leap. If the space isn't sacred enough for slaughtering, how could it possibly be sacred enough to make someone liable for impurity? The text is contradicting itself, which leads them to one final, amazing deduction.
They conclude that the only logical explanation is that the original text has a mistake, a scribal error. By correcting a single word based on the text's own internal consistency, that final puzzle piece just clicks right into place. And Rava's theory is saved.
So, after all that incredible detective work, we finally arrive at the final verdict, and it really reveals the beauty of Talmudic logic. So what is the final status of these mysterious temple chambers?
Well, the final ruling is just as nuanced as Rava proposed. The chambers have this special, limited kind of sanctity. They are holy enough for eating sacred offerings, thanks to a specific verse in the Torah, but they are not holy enough for slaughtering or for racking up impurity penalties.
What this whole process really shows us is that Talmudic logic isn't about finding simple, black and white answers.
It's really more about building a consistent, coherent framework that can account for all the evidence, even when that evidence seems to be at war with itself. You know, this ancient debate is a great reminder that laws and boundaries aren't always these static lines drawn in the sand. Sometimes they're the product of a deep, ongoing, logical conversation about meaning and purpose and consistency. And honestly, that's a lesson that extends way beyond any ancient courtyard.